Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turf Today podcast. What's up, everybody? Good to be back. We are here with Mike Rollins of SIP Grinders. Get ready for this one. We're going to have to start this recording getting our third individual into the conversation here.
Nothing like being late to your own podcast.
What's going on?
What's up, dude?
Fellas? You're in Florida.
I am. I'm actually home for once, as we were just talking about. You're not even home right now, are you?
No.
Yeah, you guys are hearing me through these headphones.
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
He's
Bose,
just saying
baby.
that to be nice.
No. That's
You
just
sound like
Bose,
shit.
man.
What's up, dude?
Not much, man. So wait, you are in a hotel, yeah?
I'm in a hotel. I'm in Detroit.
Just the traveling man.
What are you doing in Detroit?
Was with Sam Moynihan and the crew out at Detroit Golf Club this morning.
Nice.
I'm going to try and run over and see Phil and Seth and the boys at Oakland Hills, hopefully this afternoon.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and then go back tomorrow morning with Sam and the gang, and then head home tomorrow afternoon. So
Yeah, tell Seth I said hey. I would say some other stuff, but we're recording now, so just tell him I said hi.
oh yeah, I'll be PC about it for sure.
Yeah, man.
You can text me what you really want me to say.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm late, guys.
Yeah, no, Mike and I were just chatting. He was telling me that he stopped in at your house one time to do a load of laundry. You guys have been friends ever since?
100%, man. It's
man.
Open house during Memorial Week for sure. I didn't see your name on the list this year.
No, I know. I told Chad my schedule's all jacked up, and then with the dog last week, not to be a Debbie Downer for the podcast, but with us having to say goodbye to the dog last week, it messed up everything schedule wise, and because I was supposed to be gone all week last week, and just not going to make it this year. I'm bummed out because then after that, I go to the UK for 2 weeks.
That sounds brutal,
bro. The UK is going to be awesome. I've got you name a high-end golf course in the UK, I'm going to it.
With your clubs?
No, I wish. I wish. That would be, over 300 rounds of golf in 2 weeks? I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah, not a chance.
Well, sorry to hear about the dog. I meant to text you.
Yeah, it's all good, dude. It's brutal. It doesn't matter if you see it coming from a long ways away or if it catches you off guard, it still sucks. But not to be cliche, and especially for the podcast, but they're a member of the family. So we'll get one that's, we just need a breather.
Yeah. Are you going to get a German again or what?
I think so, man. That was my first German Shepherd, and 3/4 of the cool shit wait, can we curse on the actual podcast?
You're good.
3/4 of the cool shit that he did, I didn't train him. Watching the dog or watching Emma, protecting Emma, doing stuff like people standing in doorways or looking out windows. He just didn't like any of that stuff. He's super protective, and wherever she went, he was following her. And I know that's a big trait of them. So, they're called shepherds for a reason. So yeah, we'll definitely do another one, I think.
And this dog was a turf dog, right? So we lost one of our own.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I'm not on my own golf course every day, but yeah, he's part of the industry for sure. We could at least say that he was part of the turf industry, and came to the shop with us, came to the factory with us, and was always in the factory protecting the office too. So yeah, we can definitely say he was a turf dog for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so tough transition. Always difficult to transition.
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault. I lobbed that one at you.
Nope, that's all right. It's all right. That's just one more reason to call you Puddles right there. It's fine. No worries. You are the center of one of the hottest scientific debates on turf Twitter. Tell me about the pancake grid.
Oh, the pancake grid. So come on. Ottawa's got to know. Adam's got to know, right? Adam, have you ever heard of the pancake grid? Probably
I have not.
Right?
No, I'm on the list of people right now are scratching their head. So
so obviously with Belgian waffles, it doesn't matter, right? You can dump it in. It's got little bowls in it. It doesn't matter. But when it comes to pancakes, that's a smooth surface. I'm pretty sure somebody made a video about it anyways and did a study, used actual tines and poked holes in the pancakes and did a bunch of stuff with it. All I do is you cut a grid. Have you seen photos of it, Adam?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I'll text you photos afterward too. You just cut a grid. So if here's your circle, right, you're going to cut one line, and then one line and one line. So 2 lines each direction. Mm-hmm. And then all you're going to do is pour the syrup into those cracks. And it's going to absorb syrup into each layer of that pancake stack. So each pancake and each stack, each pile is going to have syrup in it. So when you grab that stack, every single pancake has the equal amount of syrup, and it's not going to just run off the edges of the pancake down into the plate. Now I get it. Some people like to dip and do all that stuff. I'm lazy, number one. I want to cut it all and be done. I don't want to take a fork and use it like a dull scalpel trying to cut the pancake. Just cut it once, be done, pour the syrup in, and then you save the middle stack for the last bite. It's got all the butter and all the syrup. It's the perfect final bite. You can chase it down with some bacon.
Just changed my life. I'll be
Oh,
doing
dude,
that
Mind
probably
blown,
tonight.
Adam.
Yeah.
just wait, bro. Just wait till you
All
do
the
it.
work I've been doing over the years. God.
Dude, so much work, bro. I don't want to lay out three pancakes on the whole plate and then like pour syrup on it and the syrup runs off and then you got to like cut them individually each time. I'm tired. I'm huffing and puffing. I'm also eating a lot of pancakes and chugging milk at the same time. Just cut it once and be done, dude.
It's like internal greens drainage, right? You've got a
Yes.
nice little internal greens grid.
Dude,
It's money.
the layer's perfect. It's perfect.
So
All
what is
right.
the big debate then?
Oh, dude, there's all sorts of chatter on there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you get it from everywhere, don't you?
A few people, and it's always, what is it, the minority that's always the loudest, right? One of them is my
Yeah.
father-in-law,
Oh
the
yeah.
owner of
The
SIP.
engineer, right? The
Yeah, the
engineer.
engineer, he hates it because he thinks for some reason that it's still missing the pancakes, even though I've shown him as he pours the syrup, it just goes to the edges of the pancake and into the plate. And then mine, you don't see any syrup. Also, I like a lot of syrup though. It's basically the pancakes are floating, so that's a me problem. But if you wanted to go light on the syrup, you can go light on the syrup. But yeah, he always argues with me. And then there's like one or two more people, but everybody else usually, I mean, I could show you probably 40 text messages. I'm not kidding. I send them to my dad because it was my dad's idea to cut the grid. And people will just text me on a Saturday morning, a Sunday morning of their like 7-year-old kid cutting a grid into their pancakes
Nice.
and eating pancakes with the grid. So I'll take the W. He can be angry on his own somewhere else.
You got to remember he writes your checks, right? He
That's
signs your
right. That's
checks.
right. So yeah, we'll delete this later.
Yeah. All right. So, in all seriousness, what is cut line is king?
So that's just a saying that I got from John Patterson. And I've actually never asked John. John's the equipment manager at Atlanta Athletic Club. I've never asked him if he heard that before or if that was his own original saying, but I heard it back in 2020 during COVID. I went up to, because I'd started in the industry in March of 2020 at the Orlando Trade Show, GIS at the time. And Mark Pilger, the owner of SIP, sent me up to JP's shop. I spent 4 or 5 days there training, and he kept saying we'd be going through cutting units and the geometry of the cutting unit and why it's cutting really well and cutting really well for a long time. And he kept saying, "Cut line is king, baby." And I'm like, this crackpot old guy, like, I don't know what the
What's he
hell this
saying?
means. And it's just this guy's crazy for cutting units. And then obviously, as I got into the industry more and understood how vital cutting units are to the entire operation of a golf course, not just the maintenance, but the entire operation of a golf course, I totally understood where he was coming from, and why he was saying it. And then Ben Beard, equipment manager at American Dunes up in Michigan, asked me to do a presentation for the Michigan show in 22, January of 2022. And I had asked John if I could use that name for the title. He said, "Yeah, man, no problem," because he knows that's spreading the name and getting. I hate saying this; it's so cliche and cheesy, but awareness into cutting units and how important they are, not just for the turf health, but for the operation of the equipment manager in the shop. They just don't know how much time we've been wasting as an industry on these things. Anyways, did the presentation. I took Mark Pilger's presentation called Extreme Grinding, and then JP's presentation, which is what he called Considerations for Cutting Unit Management, and then literally jammed them into one, and then added probably another two-thirds of it, maybe a third of it or half of it was my stuff, my photos, my experiences, and things like that. And then started doing the presentation, and it kind of took off from there. And then D Wayne shows up. I'm sure we'll get into D Wayne a little bit
Yes, we
later.
will. Yes.
And then, but just jokes aside, like you said, jokes aside, um, the reason it's taking off and it's doing so well is because I don't talk about grinders. I don't talk about specific types of manufacturers for mowers and which ones are better and why. It's all just lines and circles. It's simple geometry. And how does it help these guys in the shop to get their stuff to cut better, to get it to cut better for longer, and to help them save time and labor and then money, which time is also money, but money and materials too, and bed knives and reels. And so that's why it's really, really stuck is because I'm trying to help people solve their problems. You guys, Adam and I were talking about it when I was talking to Tim Krieger with the Pulling Weeds podcast. He said, like, what's the biggest advice you would give a sales rep in the past, or myself in the past when I'm first starting is like solve problems. If you're
Yeah.
not solving problems, in my opinion, you're kind of useless. Adam, I mean, we were talking about it before we started recording. Was you're doing a different job, right? And you're in sales, and if you're not helping people solve a problem, they're going to move on to somebody who will.
Always. That's the biggest thing, right? Everybody's different too. Everybody has different needs, whether it's their budget, what they're dealing with, what their current situation is. So
Yeah,
everybody has something different. It's about figuring that out, going through
yeah,
that needs assessment, figuring out kind of what's for them, and then trying to get them into whatever you can.
yeah. And the biggest lesson I got from that too was early on. Luckily for me, was Mark Pilger, my father-in-law and the owner of SIP. He told me when he first bought the business back in '88, it was basically bankrupt. That's how he could afford it as a mechanical engineer coming from Lockheed Martin. It's Martin Marietta at the time. He bought the company, moved in, and he said like in the first few months he just kept getting phone calls and people showing up and mail. And sales reps would come in and be like, "You need to get this, and you need to get that, and you need to buy this, and you need to buy that." And he said he wouldn't work with anybody until finally the Granger rep showed up, and just all he did was he said, "What do you need?" And that's when Mark was like, "This is the guy I want to work with." So that kind of was a light bulb in my head too, of like, "All right, let's solve some problems. I'm not going to shove stuff down people's throats if they don't want it. If they don't want it, we'll find somebody who does need some help, and we'll work with them too."
I think that's one of the things that I respect most about you, Mike, is you, like you said, you're not selling grinders. You are, that's your
I
job.
am, yeah,
But I see you in shops that have any grinder and you're there,
yeah,
you're educating, EMs or whoever it is, superintendents, and you're also getting an education from them.
oh, 100%.
Um, and you mentioned, just how critical that's been to your growth. I mean, you have come so incredibly far in such a short amount of time, going from your background of videography, which is one of the things that first caught my eye was your videography. How on
Thanks, dude.
earth did you learn so much about grinders, the grinding process, the impact that they have on turf? How did you get so knowledgeable on it so fast?
Yeah, so great point. Thanks for the lob, dude. It's really simple. It's everybody else has taught me this stuff. It's in my presentation. Yeah, somebody's got to sit here and talk I can talk and talk and talk, but it's from the 200, I think 250 plus equipment managers that I have in my phone now. You know what I mean? Like I know for a fact, I haven't counted lately, over 200 EMs in my phone and over 200 superintendents in my phone. And that's where I've learned everything from. Yeah, I have my experiences and things that I've added to my presentation and added to my training for people. But the majority of it, what took me from, here to here, really quickly as far as like gathering all of this information are these other people. John Patterson, Jerry Cara, Mark Pilger, obviously. I mean, I could list off 40 other people, and sorry for those of you I didn't list off. I know you'll be upset, but you know who you are. Kevin Henniger, all those guys, I learned from them. I jam it into a presentation. I say it in my class actually at the very beginning is like, look, guys, like you don't have to take anything out of this. Like if there's one thing you take away from this class today, that's a goal. That's my goal. That's a good thing. But all I've done is taken the cheat codes from everyone else. That's all I've done, and jammed it into 265 slides for 4 hours. And I'm going to be foaming at the mouth. But if you can take away one thing, you're taking it away from somebody else in a good way. You know what I mean? And John said that to me. I said, John, same thing you just asked me. Like Patterson, how did you learn all this stuff? Like you're a wizard, yada yada. And he won't take any credit either. And he's like, no, I stole that from this guy, and then I stole it from this guy when I worked here, and then this guy taught me that, and that's literally all I've done too. And I will come across some people who don't trust me, and obviously I can see how they would think I'm a snake oil salesman, and we kid about that too. But I have to remind them, like, look, dude, like this isn't my opinion. It's not something that I've like developed from SIP or anything like that. It's stuff I've learned from you, and from multiples of you. And once you kind of say that, they're like, all right, they kind of chill out a little bit and they're more willing to listen. But you just kind of got to break that wall down a little bit and show them that you're there to help them, and then show them all this information that you've gathered from other people, and that usually is a really potent kind of mixture.
That's really important. I know working firsthand at a golf course, there's times when shit's going on and there's fires going on and you got to be able to put them all out and you don't have all the answers. And that's when being able to reach out to somebody like yourself is very important. Having that network, going into working at a golf course, you have to be able to have those people that you reach out to, whether it's other golf
100%.
courses or people like yourself. So just like to piggyback what Brian was asking there, you've obviously learned a lot about this industry and how to work with the grinders and how to work with other equipment managers and superintendents and stuff like that. But what led you into this industry in the first place? Like, were you ever an assistant superintendent? Did you ever become a greenkeeper? Was it school for you? What kind of led you here?
So my father-in-law, Mark Pilger, owns SIP Corporation, and we do the blue grinders, as everybody knows them, or
Hmm.
some people will call it Simplex Ideal or Peerless, which is what the SIP stands for. I married into the family, and I met Mark back in
Married up, by the
2000.
way. Sorry to
Oh
interrupt.
yeah, oh
Married
yeah,
up.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'll kick the coverage. I'll make sure now that I said that. Thanks for the opportunity. I will send this link to my wife, and I'll tell her to skip to however far in we are. So no, yeah, I'll kick the coverage. I met my wife at the University of Florida, and then I met Mark, her father, around the same time, like September 2011. Really funny stories that we'll maybe touch on those a little bit later too. But met him in 2011. Had no idea what he did. Would always hear like grinders this and grinders that and sharpening this and sharpening the Toro and Deere and Jacobson, and we'd be sitting at the dinner table, and his son, my brother-in-law Carl, is our GM, also smarter than Mark, and I tell Mark all the time too, and Mark would admit it, he knows it. Carl's awesome, but so it is truly a family-owned and operated business. It's been around since 1902. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. But anyways, for like what was that? 9 years, I would go over there and we would have dinner, no idea what they're talking about. He and Carl would be blabbing about a thousandth of an inch this and microns that and all this stuff and getting into all these precision terms and numbers and stuff, and we would just move on. And then finally, my mother-in-law, Michelle, was getting sick with a even worse form of Parkinson's, and she unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. And leading up to that, though, in 2019 into 2020, Mark had asked me, he's like, Michelle's getting sick. I can't really be on the road much longer. Would you want to be my Eastern regional manager? And I said, I have no idea what you do. Literally 9 years in, 10 years in, had no idea what he did still. We took a 10-day trip. We took Michelle with us and went up the East Coast and came back, and I loved it. The turf industry was awesome. I didn't meet a single asshole in those 10 days. And Mark has told me too. He's like, Mike, you're going to love this industry. And sure enough, I mean, here we are, right? I mean, who's allowed to invent Dwayne grinds and get away with it? You know what I mean? But anyways, to answer your question, Adam, I'm sure you see you're seeing I can get long-winded. I grew up in a shop with my dad. My dad had a repair business when my brother and sister were in middle school and high school, and I was really little. And then he put me through private school and stuff like that with a transportation business. He had big rigs and hauled heavy duty trucks and equipment across the country. And so I grew up in a shop, and grew up talking to the shade tree mechanics, the really, really educated guys. I mean, anybody, you name it. I was on the phones. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And so I like to think that's what's helped me adapt to this industry. And like I said, I can talk to anybody across the board and hold that conversation. I could talk to a doorknob. So that mechanical background, growing up in the shop and stuff like that, messing with RC cars and drones and all that stuff, tinkering on this and that. I mean, I built jet ski engines when I was a kid with my brother, rebuilt car engines and stuff. So that has helped. And then I went to school for film and media, thinking like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be a mechanic. I'm going to get out of my dad's world and all this stuff. And here we are, full circle, right back into it. And I'm absolutely happy, man. Wouldn't change it for the world.
You've been able to use some of those video skills along the way.
Yeah.
Talk about the daily grinds and some of your videos that you're doing to showcase that world.
Yeah, so like I said, my dad was a mechanic. He didn't finish ninth grade. He's one of the smartest people I know, but he did a lot to get me through school. I did private school because I was deaf in my left ear, and the elementary school didn't tell us for like I think it was like 3 years, 4 years. So they're like, "That's it, we're out of here." And then he paid to put me into school into UF and to get that film and media degree. So when I started in this industry, it's what I love to do, right? Is film stuff and edit and all that, and I wanted to find a way to apply that in this industry. And so I'd been thinking for a long time about making a daily grind series or just a video series. I didn't know the name yet. And doing all these hours driving, I'm thinking about, like ideas and people I can start filming, which John Patterson was the first one because he taught me pretty much everything I know about cutting units, still is to this day. And Then Trent Manning started his Real Turf Techs podcast, and that was just like that little extra kick of like, cool, like we can get some media going in this industry. And because I'd been thinking about it since I started about making something with film, just didn't have the time really to do it. But that was a nice little kick in the ass to get it going. So I did that. I'm on episode 3. We'll film episode 4 this year. Still don't even know who I'm going to film or what we're going to do. But anyways, the point of that is to showcase the equipment managers, what they do, why they do it, how vital they are. Literally, if there's no mechanic, I was just on the phone with 3 guys today, 3 superintendents today. One of them, his mechanic walked out. The other one, the guy retired, and then the other one, the guy is sick. All 3 of those guys, you would have thought they lost their dog or their firstborn child because their golf course they think is falling apart, because it kind of almost is, because they don't have a mechanic to keep all of their machinery running. And so they're asking me questions about grinders and how can we do this and do that. And so literally without a mechanic, without an equipment manager, these golf courses do not exist. Whether that's their official title or not, somebody's got to work on that stuff. So
Yep.
I wanted to showcase that, and that's what the daily grind is. A little homage to my dad too for putting me through school, putting me through private school, putting me through UF. So it's a little bit of a thank you there, and then a thank you to what mechanics do in the industry and showcasing how important they are.
So big. Like you nailed it right on top of the head there. We cannot do this job without the mechanics. We've had a
Yeah,
number of people come on our show and praise their mechanics and certainly
yeah,
tell funny stories because they're not the most,
no,
I would say normal people. But I think
no,
to be a golf course mechanic, you got to be a little bit different,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's okay. That's why we love you, and that's why you're able to do those things. You kind of
That's
have to
right.
be a bit of a selfless person sometimes because you're fixing all the things that other people break.
Yeah, and they are, man. I mean, look, my dad, for example, right? Like any mechanic, I would say 98, maybe 97% of the mechanics I've met in this industry are very humble. They don't want the recognition. They don't want to talk to members. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to do their job, do it well, and then, go home and sleep in peace. You know what I mean? And my dad was the same way, is the same way. And so, yeah, they don't, it is a thankless job. They don't want a lot of credit. Even when I make the videos, they're like, they don't want a lot of credit. And it's like, no, no, we're going to give you some credit. You guys deserve it. They will tell you, they talk about it on the Trent's podcast and a few other things too, forms of media, at least in Twitter and the WhatsApp groups. They will tell you, though, the biggest reward, it's even in Daily Grind, I have it highlighted, and I think in all 3 episodes, the biggest reward these guys and gals get is when they put a cutting unit together and they go out there, and John Patterson says it in episode 1. He's like, the agronomist provides the canvas, and then the equipment manager, paints that picture, and the operators paint that picture with the mowers and what they're doing in the aftercut appearance and things like that. Very, very romantic, poetic statement there from Patterson for golf course maintenance, but it's true. But they will tell you, every single one of them, I would be surprised if they didn't, will tell you that they love going out there immediately and getting that immediate feedback from the crew, from a member, from a GM, the pro, coming out there and saying that, because this is the only industry where you can do something like that and then literally 20 minutes later go out and see the results from it, and see it for weeks to come too, and months.
What do you think is the most crucial aspect of preparing these cutting units? Grinding, whatever it is. What do you think people need to focus on most? If they don't do anything else right, what's the one thing they need to do right?
Oh man, just right off the bat, Adam and I were joking for the listeners too. I didn't get any questions because Brian said, and he's right. Brian is right. I don't need the question list. I don't need anything ahead of time. I could talk for 12 hours, just to give you guys a little context. So I haven't had time to think about this one, but the initial reaction I have is read the fucking manual. That's always, I joke with them up front, jokingly. I'm not saying that very aggressively. Start there and then go with the manufacturer specs. Just start there, because half of my presentation is photos of the manual. And so I don't take any credit for any half the stuff that's out there. The other half is from other people I've learned anyways. It's just a photo of the manual, and it's just, recommended bed knife angles, recommended setups, recommended, bed knives and height of cut and all that stuff. It's just a starting point. And then it's the geometry of that cutting unit is the whole thing. It's just lines and circles. It's really, really simple stuff. I can't past statistics. I'm a moron. I like ninth grade algebra. I'm an idiot. But you give me that eighth grade geometry, I'm good, right? Like A plus all day, every day. And it really is just lines and circles. So I would say just my initial reaction when you ask that question is start in the manual, open the manual. John Deere QA5s. There's a little, not to go too, we won't go too far down the rabbit hole here. There's an eccentric cam in the side plate of a John Deere QA5, and it's meant to be flipped at it. When your real diameter goes from 5 inches down to 4.800 and it gets smaller, you lose bed knife clearance. So underneath the bed knife, you're losing clearance to the turf, right? And so you're going to start getting weird aftercut appearance issues, drag marks, all kinds of stuff going. So at 4.800, you're supposed to flip that cam. And what that does is that moves the pivot bolt up in the frame and it gives you more clearance. And then you're allowed to run that down to 4.400 on a John Deere. But when I tell people that about flipping that eccentric cam at 4.800, their heads explode. And they're like, dude, I had no idea. And so that, along with literally, I could give you another 20 reasons why. That's why I made the joke of like read the F and manual, is because it will just help them with those little things like that, and then you can take it to the next level of the geometry.
I love it. Just read the fucking manual. Straight
Yeah,
to the
just
point.
and listen, I said that very aggressively as a joke because I don't read the manuals. All of the photos of the manuals that I have are from Chad Braun, Kevin Henniger, Jerry Cara, John Patterson, Seth Sheldon. Like all these other guys are sending me photos of the manual. So I don't even read the manual, but I know from listening to them and from my personal experience, jokes half aside, it is the biggest solution to a lot of problems is just open that manual, read a few things, even if you read like the quick setup guide or whatever, like when you get a new computer or whatever, just like read something in that manual. It will help you in a big way.
It's like when you open up a new video game, right? Uh,
Yeah,
who
I'm not
reads the
reading
manual
anything.
when they? Yeah, no,
No,
no.
just
A does
fire
this,
it
B
up,
does
dude.
this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Are you
exactly
finding
right.
it's more and more people now are grinding more? I know the last golf course we worked at, we really had to get the gentleman on board to actually grind more. He just wanted to lap as much as he could and pull out the
Yeah,
hand grinder when he could. Are you finding it's more popular now?
yeah, 100%. And so I always would I'd get into shops and stuff like that and go in and tell them you got to grind, you got to grind, got to grind, and they would get really offended. And I wouldn't say you have to grind. I would say these are the benefits of grinding. And they're like, well, I've been lapping, I've been doing this for 20 years, or I've been doing this for 30 years, and there's nothing wrong with lapping. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with lapping. Chad Braun, Kevin Henniger, Taylor Kearns, they all taught me like Mike up here up north, right? Canada. Taylor Kearns is at London Hunt. Kevin Henniger is at Angus Glen. He was with Goodwood. Chad Braun's in Minnesota at Town and Country. You get all these worm castings. Chad's like, Mike, my first season, I was grind it, grind it, grind it. And he's like, I almost quit the industry because you would send a fairway mower out and it comes back in. It gets halfway through the whole day and it's ripping turf, right? And he's like, I would grind it and grind it and grind it. And you get burnt out. He's like, I almost quit the industry. And there is a time and a place for lapping. And that's when, okay, he'll lap it in, he'll get through the worm castings, and then he'll refocus on sharpening properly, frequently, regularly, whatever his method is or his system is and timing. So there's a place for lapping. I have to preface with that. But the cutting, and I say this in my class, geometry is the biggest factor in getting that to cut really well for a long time. That's the big thing that people miss, Adam, when I go in for training, consultation, whatever. They're like, well, cut's fine. I'm like, all right, I'm not saying cut's bad. What did it take to get it to cut well, and what's it take to maintain that cut? Those are the two questions I always ask them. And obviously, that's a very broad, generalized, rhetorical question. The answer, though, is it takes a lot of fucking time and effort and material to get it to cut really well. And then it takes the same amount of shit to keep it cutting really well. And the next thing you know, courses that have the money are hemorrhaging through 15 grand of bed knives in 6 months, right? But because they have the money, they don't give a shit.
Hmm.
Well, I have to remind them, what about the guy down the road in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, who can't afford one new bed knife, right? He can't afford to lap his way through the valley of that bed knife, to tighten up contact through the valley of that bed knife. He's got to get the geometry right. And honestly, it's the 85% of golf courses that don't have unlimited budgets, where I learn the most about doing all of this. And that's where this really applies. Is there's a misconception of Mike, these guys are in the shop by themselves and they don't have time to do all of this. It's bullshit. John Patterson knows 70% of his labor in season is cutting units. 70% of his job focuses on cutting units. And I guarantee we can ask anyone else running Limble, Task Tracker, anything else that's running and tracking their labor, massive majority of their time is on cutting units. It's the job. I've seen a lot of guys get hired for cutting units. I've seen a lot of guys get fired over cutting units too, right? And so that's when it's like, no. If you're by yourself and you've got to go mow fairways in the morning and then come in the afternoon, I don't care. I'm going to focus on cutting units and get the geometry right. And I'm going to do it up front so that it doesn't come back in and fight me again a second time or a 10th time. I'm going to get it right the first time. And that geometry, it's just lines and circles, right? If this line is like this, a bed knife, you've got a reel like this, it's going to wear really heavily on one side and then it's going to drop off, and you've got to retweak and retweak and retweak, and it's wasting time, material, and it's both equal money, right? And so when you word it that way for the EMs, they start to jump on board, right? Especially the superintendents, the guys looking at the big picture, the director, whoever, whatever their title is, looking at that budget, it really resonates with them too. But I go to the EMs first because most importantly, it saves their stress levels in the shop, right? Like Eastlake is a prime example. You're going to hear that name probably a bunch today. Brian knows it's my favorite place on the planet. I mean, I've got my tour cup right here anyways. That's where I learned almost
What's in the
everything I
cup?
know. Yeah, don't worry about it, bro. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. It's just water. And so Eastlake, that's where I learned most of it, though, right? It's tournament support and volunteering. That's where it's hyper concentrated amounts of education and experience, all in one. My wife is texting me. I need to text her back, and that's where I learn most is when I'm doing these tournaments. And so that is what benefits people is when they can get it right up front, and then they can work on the sprayer, they can work on the top dresser, because in my experience, they'll get it sharp, it'll go cut well for about 2 holes. They don't realize it drops off so poorly, comes back in if they even reset it. When you get it right, I always joke, I've got a lot of photos of guys at tournaments sleeping when they used to be grinding. I've got photos of myself sleeping when we used to be grinding, right? But now that we're getting that geometry right, yeah, we're sleeping and yeah, it's a tournament, but that still applies to everyday golf course operations. So now instead of sleeping, you can work on, like I said, the sprayer, the nozzle that somebody hit on a bridge post and ripped off, right? Or the belt that broke on the top dresser, the fin that broke, whatever it is. Getting that stuff right up front pays massive dividends in the long run. And that's been my big uphill battle is they don't see that problem because they've just been used to just grind it and grind it and grind it or lap it and lap it and lap it. It's going to cut really well. It's not going to cut very well for very long, and you're doing it again and you're wasting time and money.
So you've been kind of playing around and you've seen the GS3. I know we've had some of those conversations. Have you started tinkering around with it and trying to utilize it for quality of cut yet?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have one. I've been beating up Jordan Booth and all the boys over at the USGA. Hopefully, we'll get one at some point down the road once everybody's kind of happy with it and across the board. But yeah, it's already a game changer. I've been saying that for what 2.5 years now. And this year they're focusing on trueness and smoothness numbers, which yeah, from an agronomic standpoint, and yeah, punching holes and verticutting and top dressing and turf types and when did you put a PGR down or when did you put all these other types of chemicals down? At the end of the day, what goes out there every single day on greens or every other day on greens is a cutting unit, and that cutting unit has a massive effect on that turf every single day. And if they're not tracking what mower goes out on what green and what the front face thickness of this knife is or the real diameter is on that one, they're putting a different cutting unit out there each day. And then they're going to track these numbers and they're going to start chasing their tails a little bit has been my biggest concern, as some of these guys dig into trueness and smoothness numbers. So I'm trying to help educate people on, okay, the key word here is uniformity. That's a word I learned from Mark Pilger. Same thing as consistency, but one thing he taught me is you can be consistently bad too, Mike. I said, okay, easy. I get it. So we want to be uniform is the proper word Mark taught me. So we want front face thickness of bed knives to be uniform across the board, real diameters to be uniform across the board, all within a certain tolerance so that if Adam goes out with, greens mower number 2, and then Brian goes out with greens mower number 6, and you guys mow the same green, but on different days, you're putting the same mower out there and you're going to get the same clip yield, yada, yada, yada from that mower. And that's going to provide you trueness and smoothness numbers that you didn't even realize existed. I mean, we almost had a ball at East Lake last year for the Tour Championship on their greens for the last time before the Andrew Green renovation. I mean, I've got photos. And I'm not patting my own back. Chris Lewis was on top of greens cutting units last year. Eric was on bed knives. So all I really did was fairways. It was pretty smooth last year, but those are the purest greens I have walked on. That's my experience. You couldn't see a single cutting unit. You couldn't see a single pass. It literally I'd make this comment all the time, but it truly looked like a pool table felt on every single green. So that's when you start to see those smoothness numbers. And I think Chad Allen's talking about it. Obviously, when you have a smooth green, you're going to get the speed and the numbers that you want on that end too. So TNS numbers are the big numbers from the GS3, in my opinion.
Do you think that helps you guys sell more grinders, having that ball come out and providing those kind of numbers and, changing kind of people's mindset of what they want their greens to be like?
I think what the ball sells is geometry, and that's why it was so big for me. I can be like, hey, look, the geometry guy is like saying, hey, sell more geometry. Like it really is. I think the ball is going to sell geometry and proper setup. And we won't get into the commercial side of the grinders and stuff because any grinder can get a cutting unit sharp. It's getting the geometry right that really sets the cutting unit apart. The only comment I will make is that the SIP grinders, both grinders, focus on the geometry, and you can do everything you want without a surface plate in our grinders and provide proper geometry in those cutting units. That's really the only thing I'll say there. But all of these grinders will get it sharp, but it's a matter of getting the geometry right. And if that means you got to go to a surface plate, I don't care what color your grinder is. You better be going to a surface plate if you want to get a properly paralleled cutting unit. And you want to make sure that reel is cylindrical. You got to use certain tools. You got to use certain methods and practices to make sure the geometry is correct to put out a proper cutting unit.
So you mentioned East Lake a few times.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really bad at transitions here right now. So
No, you're good. You're good.
you mentioned East Lake. I mean, talk about your first experience there and just, I mean, you're a part of the family over there. Talk about your experience and why you continue to go back so much.
Oh man. Yeah. So it was COVID 2020. I built three sets of each of our machines, three bed knife grinders, three reel grinders, and then went up to Patterson's shop at Atlanta Athletic Club for 4 or 5 days, did training there. Stephen Tucker's shop at Four Seasons in Orlando, did training there. Drove around with these guys to try and understand and wrap my head around what are equipment managers doing, what's the job, why is it important, et cetera, et cetera. And then came back and Mark had me grind. I ground one bed knife on my machine when I built my 6000, which is the bed knife grinder. It's in Grindzilla right now outside. I'm sitting at home. It's in the driveway. And then I ground another bed knife on another machine before it went out. So I'd ground two bed knives in my entire career. And Mark comes out and it's like August or July. It's July of 2020. And he's like, hey, I'm going to send you to East Lake for the Tour Championship. And you're going to help John Patterson and Anthony Herzog with cutting units. And I'm an idiot at this point, right? I'm like, okay, cool, man. Because he's like, how do you feel about cutting units and grinding? I was like, oh, yeah, I got it. No problem at all. I know everything. You know what I mean? Like that kind of mentality. And he sends me to East Lake. And obviously, what's the narrator says, he knew nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know anything and went up there. And Anthony Herzog was the equipment manager at the time. And he'd worked with Patterson way back in the day at PGA National down in South Florida. And JP went over and he was helping him out. And we brought my van up there. We took my reel grinder out of my van, put it in their shop on like 4x4s on the floor. It was all crooked and shit. And Anthony did all the reels, squared everything up, got rid of cones, paralleled rollers, the reels, untwisted frames. And then I did all the bed knives because the bed knife grinder is kind of idiot proof. It's like the dummy end of the tape measure, you know. And so they put me in the van. We kept the bed knife grinder in there, and I did like 147 bed knives. I have my notes. 147 bed knives in like 6 or 7 days. Just like pounding through, just pound. They were just feeding through the back door of the van, putting bed knives down on the floor. I would pick it up, grind it, and put it out the side door of the van. Anthony will come over and grab it and just humming through stuff. And that's where I learned. I learned more in those 2 weeks than I have since probably. I mean, I'm being dramatic there. I've learned a lot since then, but you guys know what I mean. Like those first 2 weeks, you're talking about being green, right? Like I was green, and that really threw me into the fire pit, the deep end of the fire pit for sure. It was the best way to learn. It wrote to my hard drive. I met Bland Cooper, Bland, Brian, and PGA Tour agronomist, and I remember he was out on like two fairway or one fairway. He was on one fairway because two's a par three. He was on one fairway, and I remember pulling up next to him and being like, "Hey, Mr. Cooper, I'm Mike Rollins with SIP," and basically being like, "Why is the sky blue and why is grass green?" And dude, he dropped everything, right? Tour championship, he's checking numbers and he drops everything to answer my questions, man. And that's a prime example of the industry, and you just got to be willing to ask questions. And so that was my first experience, really true experience with tournament golf, but with other people. Because remember, it was COVID, right? And so
Yeah.
for 7, 8, 9 months, not even 6 months, I'd just been in our factory and I'd been to two shops. And then you jump right into the tour championship, and I was like, this is awesome. Give me some more. You know what I mean? And so couldn't have enough of it and hit the road after that point. So yes, it's September of 2020. I've been on the road and haven't looked back. But that's why Eastlake is my second home. I have like a home course, Pelican Golf Club, but I always call Eastlake my second home because yeah, it is like a family. Ralph too. And then Banks and Davis is back now as a superintendent. I was just up there a couple weeks ago to see the renovation, and we're in a group chat, and it's great being with those guys and working with them too.
How's the renovation coming?
Oh, dude, it's sick. It's done. Like they just
Yeah,
did
that's what
greens,
Charlie
sprig
said.
greens. Yeah, man. It's like it's not done, but you know what I mean. Like they had the driving range left. 18, I think, was getting finished when I was there, which was crazy because just like 4 months before that, I was there and they'd only had grass on like two holes. You know what I mean? Like, and you go back and it's pretty much done. It's insane, man. I mean, you were just at Colonial, same thing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's
It's
quite
unreal.
crazy
And
how
Chad at
quickly these things.
Muirfield.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's fun. Those transitions are always fun to watch. Can't wait
Yeah,
to get
man.
back down there.
Dude, me neither. You gonna be there?
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be
Hell
there.
yeah.
At least
Adam, you
Charlie.
coming down, bro?
Dude, that's one of the nicest golf courses I've ever played. I would play that golf course or even visit that golf course any day of the week, probably twice on Sundays.
It's hard to say, but it's even cooler now.
I was gonna say you
Oh
won't
Um,
even
yeah.
recognize it the next time
you
you see
Oh
won't
it.
even
man.
recognize it, dude.
I was in there and I snuck up to the top floor and I was going down one of the hallways and the guy's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be up here." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Well, come here." And he lets me into the champions locker room. He's like, "You got 30 seconds. Go in there." I walked in,
Nice.
walked her
Oh,
down. That's so
jeez.
cool. So old
That's
school
awesome.
too, like all the history and everything there. Like,
Yeah.
1902, man. Or no, sorry, 1904. SIP's 1902. They were 1904. The clubhouse was burnt down, I think, twice. And it still says AAC for Atlanta Athletic Club on the top in the stone on the front of the clubhouse. So that's really cool stuff too. And yeah, just the history. Last time I played there, they do the volunteer play day. So when you volunteer for tournament support and stuff, you can go back and play the next summer. And you just like you're walking out here and you're like the amount of people, the history through this golf course, it's unreal. Like the people that stood on the same tee box or this green, et cetera, et cetera. It's awesome, dude. It's hard to beat.
yeah, well, that's an amazing property. I'd love to come back for sure. My uncle lives in Atlanta, so I got a place to stay.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Come on down, man. We'll be there.
So East Lake's also the birthplace of Dwayne, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Good segue, bro.
There
You're
we
getting
go.
good at the
Yeah, he's
segue.
picking
I'm
it
I'm
up. It only
learning
took a
this
few minutes.
podcast thing.
Yeah, man. You got to listen to sorry to plug another podcast on your podcast, but you got to
That was
listen to
fine.
Smart List with
Oh
Will
yeah,
Arnett. Have you guys heard of that
Oh,
podcast?
that's one of the best
absolutely.
ones out
It's
there.
Dude,
great.
Yeah,
and Arnett's a big hockey guy, bro,
he
from
is. Yeah.
Toronto. He loves talking hockey, man. So listen to Smart List. It's really good. Arnett's really good at segues. That was a good segue, Brian. So, all right. It was 2021, September of 21, August of 21, and I had to go to a wedding. It was, I think, I always get the story wrong, but I think it was before I was there for
It's
three
your story.
weeks.
You can't get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
The wedding, I got to look at my calendar to see when the wedding was. So I was there for 3 weeks. It was between the third week and advanced week as we're leading up to tournament. I had to go to a wedding. And so I have USA fanny packs. Gave to all my groomsmen for their my wedding. I had a thing of baby powder because everybody needs baby powder on a golf course. My Bluetooth speaker, New Balance dad shoes. You know, like the what are they? I forgot the model number or whatever, but yeah, the dad shoes, right, for mowing the lawn. I bought those just to mess with my wife, and then What I had the mullet wig because I bought that mullet wig in 2007 in college to float down the river and drink Natty Light. And then I had like the USA colonial flag, so it's got 13 stars in it. And I brought all of that to this wedding with all of our college friends up in Newport, Rhode Island, for a very bougie wedding, and had to rent a tuxedo. And I dressed up as Dwayne. But at the time, you got to remember, Dwayne didn't exist yet. I just put this outfit on to be funny, so I have a photo of it. Anyways, you get into advanced week now of tournament. Then it's advanced week. It's Thursday. And you could tell the crew is just crushed, absolutely wrecked. I'm usually there for 2 weeks each year. I was there for 3 weeks that year because I just got in their SIP and I was making sure they were happy with everything and it was they were learning it and using them properly and going through it. And so was there for 3 weeks, but just the 3 weeks I was there, I was only there for a week and a half and I'm already wrecked and crushed. So imagine doing that all year long. So you could tell the crew was tired, like any tournament. And so then I'm like, I got this outfit. Let me just like put this outfit on. Davis was assistant superintendent at the time. He's got a good sense of humor. Banks too. They all do. Charlie and so I was comfortable in putting this dumb outfit on, even though I only knew these guys for less than a year. And then you've got Ralph Keppel, the director, who at the time I didn't know him very well yet. I'm like, all right, straight edge guy, like very serious. I got to be careful here. And so I get the outfit. I put on the mullet wig and everything else, the fanny pack, and I've got Sweet Home Alabama playing on loop on the Bluetooth speaker. And then I went and bought 4 Ice House Tall Boys, like the 16-ounce cans of Ice House. So obviously a disgusting beer. Sorry for those of you that actually drink Ice House. And then got out, and the first person I saw was Davis. And I thought of like the most obnoxious, like kind of funny name I could think of. And I just said, "Hey man, I'm Dwayne Grimes," and that's with a Z. And he lost his shit. And so I'm like, all right. So I walk in. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, dude. Right? It's 4 a.m. Adam. So we're walking in, and the whole crew is sitting down, and everybody's tired. And I start hyping everybody up, high fiving everybody. Everybody's laughing. I gave Jaime, one of their guys on the crew, I gave him the wig, and he had it on. I've got a photo of that. He's walking around in the Dwayne wig and the mullet wig, and the point was made, right? Like got everybody hyped up, got everybody excited, and they're having fun. And I remember looking over at Ralph, and he like cracked a little smile. He was laughing. So I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm not gonna get yelled at. And I put it away. Like was done. Literally like 4:17 a.m. The wig and everything was gone, put away. Never gonna touch it again, right? And then it was like Saturday. I'm out driving around. We're going to check cut and make sure everything's good. And I remember driving by one green, and Ralph is stimping, checking greens and everything. And he stops what he's doing, comes off the green. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Like this is where I'm gonna get yelled at. I'm gonna be asked to never effing do that again. And he walks up to me. He's being serious. He's like dead serious looking too. So I'm getting even more nervous. And he walks up to me. He's like, "Where's Dwayne?" I was like, "Ralph, you better be sure you want Dwayne back. I'll go get him right now." He's like, "Yeah, go get him." So next thing you know, I'm on 18 green on tournament Sunday, dressed up as this douchebag, check and cut, in front of all the patrons, like all these people. I have photos of it, right? I have a video last year. Charlie was like, "Mike, you got to drive through the crowd as Dwayne." And so I did, and Charlie drove behind me and filmed it. So when play finished on Saturday night, this past tournament in 23, I drove through the crowd as Dwayne with like 2 live crew playing on I got a little beeper. It's a Bluetooth beeper now that has a speaker in it. I had that playing 2 live crew as I drove through the crowd.
That's
And
amazing.
Charlie said the reactions he saw were the funniest reactions he's seen in a long time, because people, like, as I drove by, dudes, all the bros are like, "Bro, did you see this guy just drive by?" Like, and then I'll be driving through, people be yelling like, "Hey, yo, what up, dude?" Like as I'm going through the crowd. People are high-fiving me. The NBC TV guys, like they give me the Jeep wave, like as I drive by, they hit Dwayne with the Jeep wave too. They probably think I'm a sound engineer or something like that. And then what else? So yeah, so just each year, Dwayne's got to come out. He came out. I didn't bring him to Muirfield because I didn't know Chad well enough yet to mess with Dwayne. But next time for sure. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so he comes out at tournaments now, Pelican. But anyways, when I was dressed up as Dwayne, I took a funny stance and pose or whatever, and Charlie took a photo. And that's when all the shitstorm started. Charlie was like, "Mike, you got to make a Twitter account, right?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm not making a Twitter account. I'm not doing this," because the next thing you know, I got to make stickers and Yetis with his logo on the Yeti. And I got to make shirts and hats and stickers and shit. And I'm not doing it. And he talked me into it. And I posted this funny photo. You'll have to find it later, Adam. We'll pull it up. Posted it. And I said, made an account for Dwayne. And it said, new profile pic, feeling cute, might tweet again later. And it had like 16,000 impressions in like less than an hour. It was like 48 minutes or something like that. And Twitter shut the account down because they thought it was a bot. And I had to, like, for the next week, I had to prove that I was a human and that it was an actual person running this account. And then now I don't know where he is now. He's like 700 followers or something like that. But I haven't really pushed it too hard. But now Dwayne gives me shit in all my comment sections. So we have some fun with it for sure.
So when you bought the wig, did you have hair?
Yeah, I did. Surprisingly
Okay.
enough, oddly enough, when I bought the wig, I did still have hair in college. Yeah. It was after college I started shaving my bald ass head.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious about that.
Yeah.
Do you keep it all like nice and tidy too? Is it like got a nice little
No,
box,
bro.
keep it all clean? No, just in the
No,
back of the
no,
truck
no.
somewhere.
That thing hasn't been washed ever. The only time it's been
Nice.
washed is getting
That's
dunked in the
Dwayne
river.
fashion, right?
That we're talking about hockey before we started recording. It smells like hockey. It smells like
Nice.
football. It smells like baseball. Like you smell an old baseball hat. That's Dwayne's wig.
Nice.
That's
That's how he likes
awesome.
it though, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He doesn't take showers.
Didn't you get a message from somebody that like spells it the same way or something? Or
Yeah.
asking if you were making fun of them?
I don't know if he
No.
wants me to. I won't put it out here. Don't worry, bro. But yeah, a very good friend of mine. A very good friend of mine. His middle name is literally Dwayne, spelled the same way. And he messaged me and he was like, "Are you messing?" Like he was like, "Are you fucking with me?" I was like, "No, dude, I'm not messing with you. Why?" He's like, "That's my middle name." I was like, "Are you messing with me?
Yeah.
Send me a photo of your driver's license." And he did. He sent me a photo, and it says Dwayne as his middle name on his driver's license.
That's crazy.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and we're having a little bit of fun right now from the Krieger episode, was Sour Patch Kids. What the heck is
Dude,
going on with you and
the
Sour
best.
Patch Kids?
Just as a kid, man, I don't know. I mean, there's videos of me during like Christmas. I've got bags of Sour Patch Kids as a kid. I don't know. It just ever since I was a kid, I could literally eat. If you gave me a jumbo bag of SPKs right now, I'll crush the whole thing.
That's a gift.
It's
My
bad.
kid did that on the way to we
See?
took a vacation to Baltimore several years back, but I told him, I gave him a bag. I'm like, do not eat this whole bag right now. Like, or on
Yeah.
even in the 7 hour trip to Baltimore, he housed them in the first 30, 45 minutes of the trip. And literally 30 minutes after that, I was cleaning out the back of the rental car.
I don't know what it
Oh,
is. If I went to a therapist, it's probably some kind of subconscious love for pain. I really don't know what it is because
Or
like
sugar.
yeah, both. It's a
Yeah.
hybrid, right?
Yeah.
Like you eat 10 of them, no problem, but you go through 400 of those, oh yeah, we got problems. So yeah, Sour Patch Kids have always been a big favorite of mine for as long as I can remember. So I don't know, I think it just kind of looped in with Dwayne and the pancake grid and everything else. I'm just a giant kid at heart anyways, so it's like I'm 12.
That's the
Aren't we
best.
all?
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best trend going right now on your side of this business?
I don't want this to sound, I think you know me well enough, Brian. I'm not a douchebag. I'm not tooting my own horn, and it's the world I live in, anyways. So I know there are other worlds outside of my world of cutting units, but in my experience so far, it's really nice to see people focusing on cutting units. Adam asked earlier about like there's a big trend of like getting away from lapping and going back to grinding. And a little side note about that as I'm thinking back at it, like lapping is a tool to extend a grind, right? Is something I have to emphasize to people. Too many people use lapping as a form of grinding, and that's when it's a problem, right? Is they're lapping and lapping and lapping, and it just trashes the bed knife. The angles are off, the geometry's not right, the cut drops off sooner than it needs to, and that's when it becomes a problem, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with lapping when you're using it to just do that little touch up, just to get that through a couple more mows. Because once you start lapping, you better be willing to lap every single time that mower goes out. If you don't, your geometry's wrong. But anyways, there's two very different things, grinding versus lapping. They're very different things. But it's nice to see people more focused on cutting units. That's the world I'm living in, Brian. You know what I mean? Like, and it
Yeah.
feels that way. Jerry Cara always makes that joke to me because Jerry, he's a equipment manager at White Oak down in Jacksonville. He always says to me, he'll text me and be like, "Damn it," and because he's frustrated because 10 years ago, Jerry would post photos or videos of, messing with bed knife angles, messing with bed knife attitude, grinding bed bars and checking stuff on a surface plate. And he would get absolutely destroyed in the comments and blown up in the comments. And people are like, you don't need to do this. And this is stupid. And this is useless. And side note, and heads up, it's not useless. It's not stupid. It helps you in the long run. But now I'll post something on Twitter, it blows up, and Jerry will be like, I posted that 10 years ago and I got my ass chewed out. You know what I mean? So it is really cool. I'm not taking credit for that. It just happens to be the world that I work in. And I really see it picking up a lot of steam. And we can thank the Skip Hines, the John Pattersons, Jerry Caras, Mike Kriz, all the original gangsters from back in the day doing the IG SEMA stuff. IG SEMA, for those listening, it's the International Golf Course Equipment Managers Association. That was started by all of those guys. And that's what bled into the GCSAA and turned into the EMCP program, which is the Equipment Manager Certification Program, and now the CTEM, which is the Certified Turf Equipment Manager Program. So it's a huge deal. We can thank all of those guys for starting that back in the day, the International Organization Association, and kind of pushing that into the GCSAA, and then Trent Manning and all those guys kind of taking that ball and running with it. Kayla Kipp, Clint McKee's on the board now. Tony Bevelo at Trinity Forest. I saw you just at Trinity Forest the other day, Brian. Tony was on the task group for a while too. So all of those guys and gals putting that together for the equipment managers. Those are the guys kind of kicking everybody in the ass about let's get cutting units right, because it is the main point of the job as an equipment manager in the golf course world.
I love that. That's so well said. I got to hand it to you, man. You've obviously come a long way and you have a lot of passion for the industry. And I think, if I ran a golf course and had some issues, you'd be the type of person that we'd want to be reaching out to. So definitely
Thanks,
got
man.
to pat you on the back for that. And I wanted to ask you just about what's next for you. Did you want to do something different? What's it going to be? I know it's a family business, so it might be a bit of a tough one to talk about, but I mean, everyone wants to see you succeed and follow your dreams. So,
He's going to be a part of the superintendent network in not too long. So
oh, okay. I like that. I like
I
that.
keep poking him. I keep
There you
poking
go.
him.
Hey, man, I would love to. Yeah. So jokes aside, yeah, I think I'm still going to be here. I think what I want to do is I'm trying to get to the point where I always knew leading up to this, and here comes another 30-minute answer to your question. Sorry, Adam. I knew coming into this, we didn't have kids yet. We had our dog. And I was just going to bust my ass and be on the road. I was doing 2-week long, 3-week long trips. I was gone. I think the longest was like 22 days in a row. I was gone. In the 3.5 years I've been on the road, I just broke. I posted about it the other day. I'm at 369 nights in a hotel. So over a year spent in a hotel in the last 3.5 years. I knew going into it, like if you asked me in 2020 if I knew I was going to be doing that, I would say, hell yeah, like let's rock and roll. Wanted to grow the industry or grow the company within the industry, let people know that we existed. Because like I said, we've been around since 1902. It's a whole nother story for another podcast why you haven't heard of us yet. But really pushing hard to do that. My goal is to kind of pull back on that and scale back on that. Because obviously, like Adam and I were talking about, we have our daughter at home. We want to try for a second kid soon. So once we have a couple kids, maybe some more dogs down the road, I can't be on the road 110 nights a year, 120 nights a year. So the next goal is we're already working on it. We've already got stuff in the pipeline, is getting people underneath me that I can work with. They can travel the country and do all that stuff. And we can set the standard for cutting unit geometry and goals and things like that and helping people solve their problems. But yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be with SIP forever. And then it's just going to be a matter of changing maybe titles and responsibilities and stuff like that. Because SIP, I mean, we got a lot of potential for a lot of other cool shit too that I haven't even brought up to anybody. So there are really cool things in the pipeline for SIP, for myself, for our family. And yeah, we'll keep it family owned and operating. God forbid something does happen. We're not going to just shut it down. We would sell it. But yeah, SIP is here for a long time.
So if you're getting people underneath you that are going to take on the brunt of traveling around the country, are you going to pass on Grindzilla?
Yeah, sadly, I would. Yeah, I would have to. I would still probably hop in it every once in a while to do stuff around the state of Florida. And yeah, I would still be in it, but yeah, it would have to go to somebody else, unfortunately. We're gonna stash another one in the Northeast, and then eventually another one in the Midwest, and then start stashing them out west too. And yeah, because Larry, our West Coast guy, is gonna retire probably at the end of this year. So we're looking for a West Coast guy, and yeah, I'll just focus more on the marketing side, the sales side, the big picture stuff, and start making more videos. And we just built a video studio, so that's going to be pretty cool too. Yeah,
Nice. You're gonna have to send me pictures of your studio.
yeah, I will. Yeah,
I
I
have to
will.
check that out.
Yeah, man, it's sick. One thing too, Adam, going back, now I just lost my train of thought. Oh, you were saying like if you were at a golf course, you would call me. The funny thing is I never take credit for that because if I don't know the answer to a question, you can ask John Patterson. I still call him probably, oh, now it's like maybe once a week, every other week, but I would call him every single day. I still bother Mark Pilger every single day. If I don't know the answer to a question, I'm calling, and I'm telling you, I don't know the answer and I'm calling the next guy too. So it's always a matter of calling the right guy and getting the answers and finding the people that are willing to share those answers. That's the big key too.
Yeah, definitely.
You kind of expanded, you kind of talked about it earlier, but just expand upon that. I mean, that's one of the big things of why I wanted to create this network is just, facilitating some of that conversation, the importance of networking within this industry. Talk about the importance of the people, just the beyond the equipment managers, the superintendents you've created relationships with, the assistants, AITs, tour agronomists,
Yeah.
talk about the importance of some of those people in your career
Oh man, in my career, literally
or
it's
in
been like,
general.
yeah, I'll do both. In my career, I would, it's cliche, but I wouldn't be here
Mm.
without all those people. Blaine Cooper's the first one that comes to mind. He was literally the first one I asked. I mean, I remember I don't remember the first question I asked him, but it was basically like, why is grass green? And next thing you know, I'm hearing hydrophobic, hydrophilic, and he's talking about lightning in the atmosphere and barometric pressure. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and we're going into it. And so without Bland, without those guys, Thomas Bassis, all these other guys, superintendents that I talked to, literally wouldn't be here because I got to learn the agronomic side of it too if I want to be good with cutting units and vice versa. Charlie and I always joke about doing a class where I do cutting unit 101 stuff for agronomists, and he does agronomy 101 for mechanics. And maybe we did that at the trade show or something like that. But anyways, wouldn't be here without them, which is true. It's cliche but true. And then as far as the industry goes, this industry really is great in that there are egos. Every industry is going to have egos, and the guy I've been doing this for 36 years and I don't need to do that. You know, like there's always going to be that guy. And I've heard that from both agronomists and mechanics too. And we will save that for another podcast. But it's shuffling those small percentage of guys aside and focusing on the majority, which is the guys who are super humble, willing to help you, willing to share information with you. The guys posting stuff on Twitter. This industry, I haven't been. I've been in a lot of industries too, and nothing's been like this one, dude. The film, right? The film is not like that. They do not teach you their secrets and stuff like that unless you go to YouTube and you find the one guy giving away all the secrets, right? Like, um, a lot of these industries don't do this. This industry is great in networking. That is always something I say. I literally have a slide in my presentation where I say that I've done, what is it? At this point, it's only like 16 or 17 tournaments. But in those tournaments, you have to be willing to ask questions. So I always tell people I don't put that up there as a humble brag. I put that there to show you all of the information you're about to see in this presentation comes from the people that run those tournaments. It comes from the people in those tournaments. You just have to be willing to ask questions. They will give you the answers to their hard-earned information that they put literally their lives, their careers, their hard-earned what blood, sweat, and tears into. They'll give you that information for free. You just have to be willing to ask. And I tell people that every time I do the class. Volunteer, apply to volunteer, fight with your superintendent if you're an EM to let you go. As your superintendent, you need to go. Usually the superintendents know because they're already usually volunteering anyways. It's pushing the guys like my dad who don't, the introverts who don't want to go out, like, hey man, go out, do a tournament and ask questions. You're not going to look like an idiot. It's going to be so much better for you to ask questions out of fear of being stupid or looking stupid than going and keeping your mouth shut. That will hurt you more than if you go out and ask questions. And usually I try to hammer that into people, and hopefully some people have taken that advice. We'll see. But yeah, this industry is unmatched as far as that stuff goes, and networking and whatnot.
That's really well said. I think Brian's got a couple clips out of that one he could take and use.
100%. It's going to be part of the next promo.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, hell
exactly.
yeah, nice. Checks in the bills in the mail, invoices in the
Yeah,
mail.
yeah. And no worries. No worries.
So do you get a chance to unwind? Obviously, you're a pretty busy guy. A lot of people lately, the past few weeks, especially, around the sport of golf, we've been talking about mental health and things like that. Is there anything that
Yeah.
you do to kind of break away from the busyness of the schedule and the season?
Yes and no. It's a two-parter. Sorry for another 40-minute answer. No, meaning if I have this on me, I'm working. It's nonstop in a good way. I want it to be. I have reminders. It's always a joke people make. I'm always talking to Siri. Brian's probably heard me do it using my phone or my watch too. And I'll get home from a 2 week trip or 1 week trip and I've got 200, 300 reminders. And that can be overwhelming and mentally stressing and things like that. And I still want that. I thrive on that. But then, yeah, the yes answer is yeah, dude. After the tour championship in September or after last week, after we had to say goodbye to our dog, yeah, I took a few days. You know what I mean? Like I have to. But after tour championship, that's kind of the end of my like busy part of the year. I will literally, this will go on do not disturb for like 2 weeks. And I'll still check it and I'll do stuff on Twitter, but it's putting the phone down, putting the social media down. For me, it's putting the phone down, putting the social media down. And then I literally do nothing. We might go on a cruise. We have a family timeshare down in Sanibel. We'll go to Sanibel, spend some time on the beach. But I like to do literally nothing. This is me personally, my preference and how it works for me. I'll do nothing for a week, 4, 5, 6 days, maybe 7 days until I get bored. I have to get bored and then I'm ready to get back into it. I don't want to go do a vacation where I need a vacation from the vacation.
Hmm.
I know that's coming. My brother has 4 kids, my sister has three, and I watch them do that. And yeah, you got to go to Disney and all that stuff. And a good buddy, an assistant down in South Florida, just did Disney, and he's like, "Dude, I need another vacation." But yeah, my way of mentally turning it off is literally just turning it off, sitting on the couch and watching The Office 7 times through. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I turn it off and just relax. And for me in my world, I just have to get away from this. And once I do that, I'm good.
As an Office fan, if you're one character from The Office, who are you?
Oh, I have no idea.
We're getting you with the deep questions today, Mike.
I find myself pulling a Dwight a lot where I'm like checking the infrastructure of a home, and I'm just like banging on the wood and being like, your struts are off. What is it, 18 inches or something like that? Yeah, your beams are off 16 inches. But yeah, whatever this motion was, don't do that again because I just gave you a really good video clip. Uh,
Oh no, yeah. I've got was doing something on a certain product that we've already mentioned before when they're talking about the smoothness and trueness and which one,
yeah, yeah,
measures this direction and that direction. And I put a loop together of them using the hand gestures for that.
yeah.
It
I
will
just
never
gave you
be
another
seen
one.
by anyone else.
Yeah, just gave you another one. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
so I do. I find myself pulling a Dwight and literally checking the structural integrity of a home. And I'll be like, is this mahogany? Is this oak? You know what I mean? Like, and my wife Anna look at me and I'm like, oh, I just Dwighted it again, didn't I? And she's like, yeah, you did. So I find myself being Dwight in that regard, and then I find myself being Jim and a lot of others. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a really good question.
You mentioned The Office, so I'm the same, man. I love watching The Office. It's every night for dinner.
Yeah, dude, every night. And I'll find myself, I can be Michael Scott too. In the Steve Carell plays that role so well
Oh,
because Michael Scott is written as a mental 12-year-old. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like maybe even an 8-year-old. And that's me, man. So like that's where I can see myself being
Uh,
Michael Scott in that regard. So I'll give you the politically correct answer and I'll say I'm a hybrid of like maybe those three.
I can see the Michael Scott definitely resonates just because I
Ice
mean
cream sandwiches at 10 a.m. You
well,
know what I
and
mean? Like that's
you're
me.
D Wayne Grinds and his, prison Mike and
Prison Mike.
nice.
Prison Mike.
what
Yes.
was it? The something plump,
Michael
Mr.
Scorn.
Plump,
Yeah, yeah,
Michael
yeah.
Scorn. Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
Michael Scorn. Oh man.
He's
Yeah,
great at characters.
he is. He is.
Holy shit.
Prison
Wakes
Mike.
up to the fresh smell of cooked bacon.
Yeah. Burns his foot. That's right, man. I would definitely do that. I do love bacon too. So I would put a foreman next to my bed.
I love it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt this serious conversation with
No,
office
no, no, you're good.
conversation,
That
Mike.
was a
Yeah.
really great
Yeah.
question that I've literally not thought about that question before. But no, yeah, as far as like the mental health aspect of it goes, yeah, for me personally, it's stepping away from that and kind of not to make this a funny part either, but like take myself back to the 90s. You know what I mean? Where you go, sorry to be gross, but you go take a dump and you got to read the back of a shampoo bottle. You know what I mean? Like that's what we got to get to. For me personally, I got to get bored and kind of just get away from the electronics and the social media. And yeah, go sit in the backyard and literally just look up into the sky and just like catch my breath. I've done that a lot after East Lake at the end of the year because that's a long year. This is going to be a busy summer for me too, where I travel for a week, home for a week, travel for a week. You know, Brian, right? You travel more than I do, where it's home for a week, gone for a week. But with Emma being 15 months old, that can't happen much longer. And so, yeah, at the end of the year, I'll go lay out in the backyard and just kind of just leave the phone in the house and just like relax and listen to the trees and the birds and just catch my breath.
We often talk to people about younger folks getting into the industry or people coming from other industries getting into turf.
Mhm.
I would love to ask you about golf course mechanics and equipment managers and stuff. If people had some aspirations or didn't even know that that was possible, what sort of avenues could they go through to kind of get those jobs at the golf courses?
So that's on Trent's podcast too, where every single one of them he interviews is like, "Where'd you come from?" And they're literally, I would say maybe, and this could be a wrong stat. Trent could give you probably literal numbers. 5 to 10% of the EMs he's interviewed for his podcast have already been in the golf industry. The rest of them come from automotive, military, big rigs, heavy duty stuff. And the only way they found it was they were out of a job and they were sitting at home going through the newspaper or looking on Craigslist or looking at ads or just seeing something on paper on a billboard somewhere in one of the bars that a golf course is hiring a mechanic, right? That's usually been how they found it. I mean, you could literally go listen to all those episodes. All of my friends in the industry that are equipment managers are pretty much along that same avenue. How do we do it today? It's what you guys are doing. It's Turf Today on Instagram. It's Superintendent Network on X. It's molding those two together and getting in front of them on Snapchat, on TikTok, and Facebook still, and showing them that the industry exists. It's videos like Daily Grind. It's stuff Brian's doing. It's what the fried egg. It's all that stuff where you show them this media and that you're outside, you're in the fresh air. It is very different, and that's what we're competing with too. Though, not to get serious and bummed out about it, is we are battling with Bucky's, right, where they've got the sign up on the fuel pump and it says you could be a manager and make $46 an hour, whatever the number is. What is it? It's like $28 an hour, and I know over here in Tampa, you could go work at the Freightliner dealer and broom the floor, mop the floor for $28 an hour, $26 an hour. So
Wow.
that's what we're battling. We're battling the automotive industry. We're battling the military for these guys and gals, and that's the tough part. Is in my experience, they don't even know we exist. I didn't know we existed, and I was married into it for 9 or 10 years and had no idea, right? And so my little contribution to that is the daily grind. You guys are crushing it, especially merging these two things together and getting in front of these people. I mean, dude, 150,000 followers on Instagram is huge. That's definitely getting in front of these kids that didn't know it existed. I know I have a nephew that when he asked me, he's like, Mike, what are you doing? Or no, it's a cousin. Sorry, it's a cousin, my cousin Jason. And he's like, Mike, what are you doing on the golf courses? I told him, and dude, he loved it, right? And he's now looking at it. You know, he's looking into the industry, and yeah, that's one, but it's one that we didn't have before. And
Mhm.
I know the big battle we have, at least from what I've seen and heard, is it's tough to get assistants, assistant superintendents, and we are in a lot of trouble on the EM side. It's really tough to find equipment managers. And the other big thing too is if they do see it, once they do see it, and they get in there, is the lack of training. So that's what I'm trying to do, is at least from a cutting unit standpoint. And Brian's question was really good. Like, what's the first thing you're telling people is read the fucking manual. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'll do to try and help them, and then show them cutting unit geometry. But to answer your question, 12 minutes later, I think what you guys are doing is the best way to do it. Is make that content, make good content that makes sense, that explains what we do, and highlights it and shows the pride aspect of it. I remember I asked Kayla for the daily grind. The first question I asked her is, "What?" I think you even hear me ask it. I can't remember. She re-asked it like a complete question at the very beginning of the episode, and it was like, "What?" I asked her, "What would you tell somebody interested in this industry or who didn't know this industry existed?" And if go listen to it, it's a minute long. It's the whole intro, and it's awesome. And she talks about that pride aspect of, I'm going to work on this cutting unit right now, and then watch it drive out the door, and then I can go watch what it does. And that's hard to compete with. Like, that's really hard to compete with. The automotive industry, I'm going to work on this. It's going to go out the door with Tiffany, and then Tiffany's going to go text and drive and total it into a light pole. You know what I mean? Like, or T-bone somebody, and I can't see that car again. I'm being dramatic there. Sorry to be so dramatic. That was pretty dark and morbid. Sorry, everybody. But it's true, right? Like, you can work on the discs, the brake pads and the rotors and all that stuff, and never see that car again. And military, obviously, I'm not going to take away from that. Kayla did that. She was in the Navy, or sorry, the Air Force. Sorry, Kayla. And that you can take a lot of pride in that for obvious reasons. But golf is a lot different. She even talks about that in that episode. And I think that's how we got to get these young kids coming into it is show them the pride aspect of it and how you can really put your name on it and send it out the door. And especially on the agronomic side too, right? As a superintendent and assistant superintendent, you can do literally the same exact thing.
I hear that a lot. It's that immediate gratification, right? The instant gratification. I hear that
Yeah.
all the time from people, and looking outside at the end of the day and like, all right, we did that. We made a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really cool.
And to kind of go back to the mental health aspect of it too, I think of, Chris. He was at Paulie's plantation in South Carolina, and he's now a plant food rep. He wrote a really great article that the GCSAA posted, I think, and then somebody else published it. And he talked about how, and he talks about this. He got divorced. He was working too much and on the golf course, and he was there 80 hours a week, and he had two kids at home, and his wife divorced him, and he had to figure some shit out, and he had to circle back to it, and then they ended up getting back. It's an awesome story. You guys need to go read it. I'll send it to you later. Really, really good article about that and about reprioritizing his golf course and what he was doing on the golf course and his family and stuff like that. Because it's easy to get sucked up into that pride aspect. Even I kind of catch myself doing that too, where it's like I'm on the phone and we're in the nursery and my daughter's sitting on the floor and I go grab my phone. You know what I mean? To check Twitter or X or to respond to this text message and help this guy. And it's like, no, man. And I will literally slide my phone through the hallway into the dining room and put it away. And that's something I think superintendents battle with every single day is it's easy to check irrigation at 10, 11 o'clock at night and want to go in there. But at the end of the day, the golf course will still be there tomorrow. And the cheesy cliche saying is true. God forbid something happened to us on a golf course. They'll miss us, but they'll still replace us the next day or the next week. So what's more important are the people who will miss you when you're gone. So that's something that hit me pretty hard too when I heard that.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's a really good point. It's a very tough job to forget about when you leave, right? You can't just turn your laptop off and go home and forget about it. It's something that's
Right.
always going to be eating at you,
Yeah, it's a
always going to be
living
planning.
organism.
Absolutely, yeah. You got those pressurized veins underneath the course that are
Yeah.
ready to explode at any time, right? It
Right.
can be dangerous, and I that
Yep.
was something that was always tough for me. Knowing that if you did make that step to become a superintendent, it's 24/7, like
Yep.
it's nonstop. And when you do decide to go golfing or go do something else, or even if it's take time from your family, it's gonna be tough. The guys that I work with and some of my buddies that are superintendents, really trying to find that work-life balance is very important.
100%. And yeah, I can't take credit for that saying. I saw it on X or one of the motivational posters. It was literally said like, when you're dead and gone, you got to spend the time with the people who will miss you when you're gone. And that's our family, that's our friends. So that I only read that like 6 months ago. That hit me pretty hard. So it definitely pulled everything back into perspective for me at least.
Well, dude, you are a phenomenal person, phenomenal guest.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
you taking the time to jump on here. The wife she probably hasn't texted you back yet, but I'm sure
No,
you
she
guys have
doesn't.
big
Yeah,
plans. Okay, yeah.
I'm not that
But she
important.
expects you to text her back immediately, right? That's how it is. Is that how it works? That's how it
No,
works in
yeah,
my
yeah,
house.
exactly. No, yeah.
Yeah,
But
those
no,
are the
No,
dude,
she's
rules.
good. She did respond. All right, she's good.
appreciate you coming on and spending a bunch of time with us. I would love to have you on again sometime, and
Thanks for
hope to
having
cross
me.
paths with you here sometime soon somewhere.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, guys. Love this merger. Keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing. And like you said, Brian, I mean, not to take credit for the end of this podcast, but keep doing what you guys are doing, man. It's true what you said, what I said too, where these guys talk about that instant gratification, and that's something that really sticks hard in these guys' brains when they're talking about their job, their careers of 20, 30, 40 years, and I think that's the big draw for the next generation for sure.
Absolutely.
It was really nice meeting you virtually here, Mike. Hopefully, I get to meet you in person, not too distant future here.
You too, Adam. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, anytime.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. I don't know where the end button is.
Yeah, it's fine.
You can cut it, right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
There it is. All right. I'm
No,
leaving.
we're 100% going to leave that.
Yeah.
You can do
Yeah, leave it.
geometry and all that kind of stuff. You can't find the end button on Zoom.
Dude, I haven't been on Zoom. I told Adam I haven't been on Zoom in so long, and I'm on a different computer and just
Oh.
downloaded it. But I'm hovering on the leave right now. I'm just leaving it. They always joke in Smartless, you just got to close the laptop.
That's
Oh, what an exit. What an
that's
exit.
that's the mic drop equivalent, I think, right
Oh,
there.
just snap the laptop closed. See you, fellas.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What a great dude. So
Oh
glad he could
yeah.
join us, man.
Yeah, another great one. Yeah, you just let him talk, right? Like we don't even have to say anything. Just go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's full of energy, full of excitement, loves this industry. And, like I said, I mean, he just got into it. It's been like 4 years. And he's probably the most knowledgeable person I know on reel grinding. And it's remarkable how quickly he's picked it up and just how far he's come in this short amount of time.
Yeah, he just fully immersed himself in it. And
Yeah.
it's cool. Like I figured he would have some sort of a turf background and just married into the company and fell in love with it. And here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It's really
No,
cool how
it's
the industry works that way. You find a chance, find an opportunity, learn from somebody. He talks about all the people he learns from.
yeah.
That's such a common theme in this industry, right? It can't just be learning from a book or learning from a movie or something like that. You have to meet these people, see how they operate, learn from their mistakes, learn from their experiences. And he's a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I learned from him. I mean, like he mentioned, he's got the video background. I think he was working for National Geographic. He
Oh,
was a
wow.
videographer for National Geographic, and I mean his stuff is awesome. So if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to go check out a couple of his videos. So they're just very well produced, and so I always pick his brain on stuff with cameras and video and all that. And he usually just responds with, "Dude, just get the story. Don't worry about it. You're doing good." Like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah, I love his positivity. He's definitely one of those guys you could probably call and get a little bit of a pep talk anytime.
100%, 100%. Always a good day when I get to talk to Mike.
Yeah. What's going on with you? Whereabouts are you right now? I know you're pretty busy, still traveling.
Yeah, still traveling today. I'm in Detroit. I'll be here again tomorrow, doing some stuff at Detroit Golf Club. They host the Rocket Mortgage at the end of Detroit Golf Club. They host the Rocket Mortgage at the end of June.
Hmm.
Um, so just doing some work with the team here. We're gonna try and sneak up to Oakland Hills, say hey to Phil and a couple other guys in the area, and then home for about 24 hours, turn around, go to Cincinnati, a little project with Macatiwa down there. They just had a renovation. Um, and then, excuse me, and then head over to Indy and do
There you
some
go.
stuff at Crooked Stick. They're getting ready for a renovation. So I'll head over there and then come home and get ready for the memorial. So memorial's coming up.
Hmm.
Mike was talking about East Lake being his second home. Muirfield Village is essentially my second home. Chad Mark and the guys out there are like family. They're every tournament. They're fairly frequently, and they've really helped me launch what I'm doing. And so I always try and be there, every tournament and spend a bunch of time. And now that my son's working out there, I get to be his ride to and from work.
That'll be
So yeah,
perfect.
yeah, spend all week out at the memorial. We'll have a lot of content coming from that as well. So yeah,
Beautiful.
that's it for the next 2 weeks. So good
And we
times.
just heard from the Canadian Open. So they're
Yeah.
in the Hamilton Golf and Country Club this
Yep.
year. They reached out to us to see if we would do some work for them next year at
Oh, cool.
TPC Toronto.
Outstanding. Yeah, we'll
Hmm.
get it on the list.
Put them on the list. Yeah, that'd be a
That's
fun one.
it.
That'd be your first Canadian tournament.
It would be, yeah, yeah. First trip period across the northern border.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they let me in. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we can try and do that whole Canadian tour at the same time. Come up to Ottawa, Quebec, and then go to Toronto.
Heck yeah, yeah. I was talking to my wife about it the other night. She wants to come with me, so
There you go. Perfect.
we'll make a good family trip out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
See if I can borrow Grindzilla from Mike and throw a bed in the back or something, so we can just live out of that thing for a few weeks.
He didn't get into that. Is that just a grinding van? He just golf course to golf course, just
Pretty
grinding away.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got like a camper van. And
Okay,
and
nice.
he set up the grinders in there. And so he literally, I mean, I don't even know how many miles he put on that thing, but yeah, he was driving that thing all around the country and making stops at shops and educating people on the grinders, or he'd just go in and use theirs and educate them on theirs. And
Hmm.
but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's all stickered up now. He's decorated with all sorts of photos from his travels and all that. It's really cool. So I remember he had he had a contest. He put it out to Turf Twitter to name it. So
Oh, okay.
I can't
Okay.
remember if it was like Grindy McGrind Face or whatever, whatever all the
Yeah.
recommendations were, but it fell on Grindzilla, and that thing's made the rounds. He takes it to the show, I think. I know he takes it
Okay.
to the Carolina show. Pretty sure he had it at the GCSAA conference as well. And they run a lot of education out of that thing just on the show floor. So
It's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty cool, really cool.
Grindzilla. We'll have to share something about that.
Try and get some, like I said, we'll get some footage from Muirfield during the tournament. So this will come out on Tuesday of the Memorial. So stay tuned for stuff on a regular basis from out there.
All right. Well, everybody out there, keep those reels sharp, and we'll see you next week. We appreciate all of the support from everybody. It's been a lot of fun. We're just going to keep on rolling.
Sounds good, man. Thank you all.